going to be a fantastic St. Patrick's Day. We've got a lot lined up tonight. We are going to have a fantastic time. If you are drinking, if you're not drinking, if you wish you were, if you see that wagon in the distance wondering just why the hell you fell off of it, this is St. Patrick's Day. This is how it happens. I am joined by Rob Pastilli and Brian Cardilli, whose name sort of rhyme. Right, and I was going to do a vaudevillian act where I inserted Willie in there, and I just couldn't do it because I couldn't bring myself to stoop that low. But give it time. It'll happen during the duration of the episode, I am sure. We've got Rob Sweet, professional wrestler, horror enthusiast. He also reads comic books and loves rock music, so we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Glad to have you here with us, Rob.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. This is the fastest hour on the internet, so I guarantee we're going to be introducing ourselves and then saying goodnight almost all in one breath because this is how it happens.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you later.
And some nights, that's how we actually should end the show.
Yeah, there's a few shows that have been.
we prolong it way past the painful point, but that's not going to happen tonight. We're going to have a hell of a lot of fun.
Not at all.
Glad to be joined by everyone. As always, I'm your ever-vigilant host, Ash Hamilton of horror-fix.com. That's horrorfix.com. Anybody wants to go check out the latest horror news, we also have music news, just about anything you could want on there, horrorfix.com. I am so glad that we are here on Thursday night. Again, the fastest hour on the internet. We got a lot to get through tonight. We have got some fascinating news subjects. And when I say fascinating, I mean extremely juvenile news subjects that we're going to get through during the first few minutes. So without further ado, we're going to roll that beautiful news clip. Bringing you the news that you never knew you wanted to hear and will almost immediately forget. This is our news section here on Night Terrors Radio. I know we've got a couple of great ones tonight. Rob, do you want to roll out the first news segment for us?
I will roll out the first news segment. Well, so last show, we kind of went down the rabbit hole of Florida man, ...
Right, so, yeah, that you could just plug almost anything in there.
It's way bigger than a rabbit hole.
So going forward, our first news story, until I get tired of it, I am just going to type in Florida man, and then whatever comes up first.
We were able to put in Florida man capture weapon, and there was a hit.
Right, we did Florida man, colostomy bag.
That's what it was. It was colostomy bag, right?
Right, and
robbery,
and immediately we were greeted with three stories.
One dude stole steaks from a Walmart by sticking them in his colostomy bag.
Oh, no. What? No.
Another dude pulled out his colostomy bag at a Kid Rock bar and started swinging it.
Which I swear I had a dream about.
Now that makes sense. That actually makes sense. I get it.
So
if it's going to happen at any bar, it's going to happen at Kid Rock's bar.
Right. Absolutely.
Going forward, I am just going to type in Florida man and take the first news story until I get tired of it. So I don't know.
I think out there somewhere, since we're in the St. Patrick's theme, there's an Irish pub where in Florida where there's been a colostomy bag incident, and I swear to God it's being named Shitty O'Shaughnessy's.
Bow with the bag.
So,
right, yeah.
So, all right. First news story tonight. Florida man asks cops to test the purity of his meth.
Oh, wow.
Well, that makes sense.
So, yeah, he literally called the police department in his town, Thomas Eugene Colucci, 42, because he called the police in Spring Hill, Florida, and asked them if they could test the purity of his methamphetamine. So, again, it's that whole Florida man ... I mean,
you gotta say, at least he's being proactive about the quality of his meth. He's not trying to get any heroin in there or anything.
Right. You don't want bad meth.
You don't want bad meth. You don't want to die, right?
No, right. I mean,
live forever chasing the purple dragon. Send to God
Oh,
level.
goodness.
Yeah,
It
you gotta put a saddle on that sucker sooner or later, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
And when you're doing that, go straight to the source. Hey guys,
so,
if you could just real quick, just a bump, and tell me what you think.
Just a little. It's not gonna. You're not
I
gonna get.
know you're on back-to-back 12s, buddy. I can see it in your eyes. Just a bump, and just let me
Right.
know. Is this
So-
safe?
here's the best paragraph in this whole story. So Colucci met another man at a bar who offered to sell him methamphetamine. Colucci, in his own words, is a seasoned junkie and decided to take the man up on his offer.
Seasoned as in like many seasons of years rolling over.
Either that or he had salt and pepper. I'm not
Yeah.
oh my-
Or salt and pepper meth.
And what does
Seasoned.
Colucci sound like a rogue cop who just could never really understand Serpico's wild loose cannon ways?
See,
That's a good point.
I was
Fucking
picturing him
Colucci.
as- I was picturing him as the other kid in the Welcome Back Kotter set that was kind of like right behind Juan Epstein.
It sounds like it sounds like a horrible like slur or something, like you call somebody.
Yeah.
Like, look at that fucking Colucci. Hey,
Yes, it is.
you're right, yeah. That fucking Colucci.
Fucking Kaluch. Kaluch did it
Oh,
again.
right, yeah. The eyes gotta be
Fucking
silent.
Kaluch.
It was that
Uh,
Chooch Kaluch.
Yeah.
That Chooch
that's it.
Kaluch.
God damn it. I
Telling
pulled
ya.
the Coluch. I pulled the Coluch.
Got a shout out to both Tracy and Stacy in the chat room already. Thanks for joining us tonight. So glad that we're getting all of the potty humor right out of the way here in the beginning, because
Yeah.
I mean,
Why wait?
usually this brings us to the 40-minute mark, and then we're like, hey, we've got a guest. Okay, do you have something to top this, Brian?
I don't know. Probably not.
Unbridled
This one's-
confidence coming in from Brian Cordelli.
Yes.
This is my play-by-play.
This one, let's take it a little bit more seriously.
Rolling
maybe.
his eyes a little bit, not for sure where he's going with this.
So,
you mean
there's-
calling the cops and asking them to test your meth isn't serious?
Maybe in some counties. I'm not sure.
Florida.
In Florida. So
I'm in the Midwest. That's like a Wednesday afternoon here.
So I have there is an infamous, some people may have heard about it already, a Tic Tac shaped UFO encounter.
Yes. Right.
With pilots aboard the USS Nimitz.
Mhm.
And so a news story came out a couple days ago that two pilots, they were on a routine training mission over the Pacific when they spotted this, like they described it as a 40-foot Tic Tac.
Tell them about the size of the Twinkie.
What about the Twinkie? So it was spotted on radar about 100 miles out to sea, and then they went out and they checked it out. Now, the interesting thing,
If I ever
is
make
that
a
one of the
gangbang video, I'm
pilots-
going to call it 40-foot Tic Tac. Just has a nice ring to it.
It's just such an oxymoron. All right. All right. So anyway, so the family of one of the fighter pilots who witnessed this UFO reports that they have seen a quote
A girl
unquote
and 48 men walk into a bar. Didn't there? The punchline. Go ahead.
And call the cops to get their meth.
right.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, you know where they can stash it after 48 men. Might as well throw your laundry in there too.
absolutely. Just never ends. It's the gifts that keep on giving on this show. Anyway, they say one of the pilots and his family said that they have seen a wolf-like creature that walks on its hind legs stalking their home since this happened. After they returned home, they spotted the strange creature staring into the windows of their house. And then it says, this is straight from the news story, on at least 2 occasions, which kind of made my eyebrows raise, because I would know if it was 2 occasions, and I saw a wolf-like creature staring in my window, I
It's a
would know
busy family.
exactly how many times I saw it.
You
But
know?
yeah, regardless. So
So that
they,
was the night
they
that Karen had both kids. because Donnie was treating her like shit. And she came over and we're like, who the fuck's at the door? And then we open it and it's like, there's Karen in the background. We were like, what the fuck is that? That's how that situation happens, where you don't know if it's like 3 or 4 times of seeing a dog man.
That would be a situation.
There's just too much going on.
Yeah.
The cops are there checking your meth.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's that much going on. You don't know what in the hell is in the background.
No.
You're swinging colostomy bags and
Swinging
Right.
colostomy bags, hitting wolf-like
You
creatures.
got that little kid goes to 3 minute a baby. Nobody can see that fucker either. All kinds of shit in the background.
Literally.
Us too.
Yes.
Some fucking guy swinging his colostomy bag around like he's fucking William Wallace. Freedom.
I got nothing else. Nothing's
I
gonna
have
top
not
that.
had a lot
That's
of
it.
sleep.
That's the end of that story.
We had a great time with the news tonight. As always, I know everyone feels enriched. It's an hour of
hope so.
personal. It's an hour of personal growth here on the Night
the New York
Terrors
Times.
Radio. And I'm
right.
getting old and about the even before my own show instead of saying Night Terrors Radio, I said the Night Terrors Radio. You can easily get to the Googles from www.horror-fix.com. Thank you so much, Rob and Brian, as always, for giving us all that knowledge just forced right into every orifice on us. Thank you so much.
Just make
I
sure
really
you go
appreciate
into
it.
work tomorrow, and just let everyone know. Wolf-like creatures.
I have so
and-
little ambition. You could have stopped it with just make sure you go into work tomorrow.
And That's a good point.
Yeah, it is Friday.
It is.
So we are very, very happy to have Rob Sweet with us tonight. Professional wrestler, he's a horror enthusiast. We got a lot to talk about. So for our audience who might not know you, Rob, can you give us a quick, okay, not that I've ever been to an AA meeting all the way through, but I'm Rob Sweet.
So
kicked him out.
So where might people know you from, Rob?
All right, I'm Rob Sweet. I'm a professional wrestler of almost 15 years. I've been in Pro Wrestling Illustrated top 500 in the world 4 times over. Other things about me, like you said, I love horror. I love all movies. Like I'm kind of like an action adventure horror enthusiast. Anything with like danger and violence, and I'm a rock and roll historian as well, and a big comic collector, as you can see behind me.
You're in the right place tonight, Rob.
I feel at home.
In case the first 17 minutes was any litmus test.
I'm just like chewing the scenery behind you every time you're on the screen. I'm like, just the books you got.
And actually, like, this is like I've got a wider view from my webcam, but there's so much going on. Like, you start to see like my vintage Raiders of the Lost Ark figures back there. I got some Secret Wars stuff. Clash of Titans carded figures back there. There's some deep dives back there with my action figures, and then I got a whole other thing of comics down here that's sort of like my little to read magazine rack that I put.
I'm
together.
a super self proclaimed nerd too. Like and I'm proud of that. Like yeah. So like nerds rule the world today. So whatever, they make our movies for us nowadays.
We're in a great position as nerds, because I've been fortunate enough to touch a few vaginas here and there. And I think if I was born maybe 20 years in the opposite direction, things wouldn't have been so great for me. Right?
No, right? Like girls are nerds now. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Like and they're hot. Like they're not like ugly girls, you know?
No, they're all like dyeing their hair and doing cosplay. And
like into anime and like having sex with each other. It's so awesome.
Like what else would I be doing on the internet at 3:00 in the morning if it wasn't for this fucking revolution in front of us? Where I'm like Grinch parody. Oh, that's a thing. Look at little Cindy Lou Who. He got every ornament up there. So we've got a lot of And so it's good to have you on, Rob. Seriously, because we love people who share similar interests with us, and to be able to talk about horror and wrestling and everything is going to be great. So as far as like the genesis of you as a wrestler, like when did this happen? Like when did you have the bug? You know, because I know for a lot of us, like when we were younger, it was like I can't remember the times I would call my grandmother, and I knew she was on the other end of the phone going, "Who the fuck is King Kong Bundy?" But I would talk about it ad nauseum with her, and of course, you know, I could hear like the receiver nod. You know,
Right.
mm-hmm.
It goes back as long as I can remember. Like my love for wrestling. Like I don't even have like a specific like first memory. It was just I always remember like seeing Hulk Hogan and seeing it on TV and always being like enthralled by it. And then like I just kind of I got into it a little bit more as I became a teenager. Like it was like when all my friends learned, you know, I don't like to use the F word, so like that this is also entertainment. Uh they, you know, I was like, nah, some of it's gotta be real. Well, luckily, like when I was 13 years old, that was the Attitude Era. That was like 1997.
Mm-hmm.
So like Boston started like drinking beers and giving middle fingers and telling his boss to fuck off. And oh, I don't know, is the language good? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Yeah, we
All
can't
right, all
keep
right.
from it.
With what we just talked about, I think
Yeah,
you're good.
good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
yeah. The people, the chairman actually said that's a hell of a prison wallet. That's where we're going with our humor tonight. So
I mean,
yeah,
you know, Ash is going on about ornaments and orifices. So
True,
yeah,
true.
you're good. You're good.
right.
That's the
And
name
I
of
still
my
hear Karloff's voice in the background, even though it was nowhere in that video. You're a mean one. I'm like, he's not that mean. So somebody just got a
Maybe-
lot of Christmas.
Maybe that's what the 39.5-foot pole was for.
Oh, it certainly
It
was.
is.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he's no Willem Dafoe.
No.
No, I don't think anybody is.
Confusingly
nobody's.
large.
So,
But yeah, the Attitude Era. The Attitude Era changed everything. And after that, I like I didn't even go right into it when I didn't know there was like local wrestling. My family used to own a bar, and strangely on one day we were closed. Like we always close one day a year for to clean, and you know no customers would come in. Well, this one guy came in, and he was like, "Would you guys like to sponsor pro wrestling?" And I was like, "What?" Like, and my sister was like the boss. She's like WWE. She's like, "You need to go talk to my brother." Boom, we started sponsoring it. I kind of hung around it for a couple years. I didn't think I'd actually ever become a wrestler. I used to be real skinny. I used to be blind as a bat. Like I had to get LASIK surgery before I started wrestling, and I got the LASIK surgery. They told me, you know, don't start training for like 3 months. I started training like 2 weeks later. And then from there I got in a little later. A lot of guys get in young. I was 24, which is young, you know, then, but like, you know, not like an 18-year-old, like a spry 18-year-old. So I got into it a little later, which was cool. But been going at it almost 15 years now. So
see, it's funny that you brought up, you know, calling your grandmother. I got into wrestling. My grandmother and grandfather.
I thought that was a lead into a really bad joke. By the way,
my
because
grandmother.
I just called you grandmother. Oh,
They came over straight off the boat from Italy, and they used to call wrestling. The two of them would say the fights. And on Saturday nights, my grandfather would literally put a tie on to sit in the living room and watch
that's
the
great.
fights.
yeah,
Because it was Bruno Sammartino, it was Gorgeous George, it was, you know,
Yeah.
the heyday of like, you know, the black and white television wrestling.
Oh yeah.
And to, you know, everybody in the crowd, you know, had a tie on and a jacket, and the ladies all wear dresses because it was an event, it was going out. So here's my grandfather, you know, putting on a tie to watch the fights in his living room, you know, and I'm, you know, 4 years old, and, you know, diving off the, you know, the couch onto the floor, and, you know, just being an idiot, you know, at 4. And it just for some reason it just stuck with me my whole life. You know, like the spectacle of it.
Must be an Italian thing. My mother was right off the boat, and her mother barely spoke any English. And one of my earliest memories of wrestling is her, and she couldn't really like walk, but she would get up out of her chair, her rocking chair, and she would stand up and curse Yokozuna. And like the Undertaker, she would say that damn Mr. Fuji, that damn Mr. Fuji, and oh, yeah, I shoot, it must be an Italian thing.
It's gotta be.
So I mean, the '80s were obviously a huge benchmark moment, as if they weren't a benchmark moment for everything. You know, it seems like our entertainment really hit a huge peak in the '80s. So
Yeah, film,
right? Oh,
comics, like comic art started changing, lines started getting darker, but like cable gave us a lot of TV shows that changed a lot of things. Like,
Cable was a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, to have cable, and then it gave especially wrestling, many more avenues to be on television and to expose people to it. And I mean, it got so big that Hulk Hogan was on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Only wrestler to do so
Ever, and now, wrestling, even now, wrestling events are covered on ESPN.
Right.
Yeah.
ESPN.com.
If you go on Apple News, or if you go on news on your iPhone, it brings up pro wrestling stories. They're on there.
I never thought I'd see this kind of like acceptance, of it. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that like the gig is up, and I think people appreciate that. Like when we're kind of pretending, oh, here's the veil. I don't like you. And then I'm going to act like the bad guy when you come up to me with your little kid and want an autograph. Like, I'm not that guy. You come up with your little kid, I'm gonna be an all right guy. Like,
Yeah.
they're gonna remember that the rest of their life.
My favorite thing that I've seen lately is it's a YouTube video of an 11-year-old girl jawing back at MJF.
Yeah,
And it is hysterical.
I respect him. I think it's great. I think what he does is so awesome. Wish I could do that. I've tried to do it at times. I just don't have enough asshole in me to do it. I'm a really good heel. Like, people, when they see me perform, I've had my friends come to the locker room after a match and be like, "Are you okay? Are you mad? Are you this?" And I'll be like, "No, I'm great." It's all the look in the eyes, but like, I don't know. But when a little kid comes up to you, wants an autograph, I don't know. I remember being that little kid. I remember going up to Bob Backlund. I saw Bob Backlund in the crowd at a Monday Night Raw. Go up to him and I was like, "Hey, you're, two-time champion Bob Backlund, and like you held the title for like almost 6 years, and oh my God." And he was like, "Sit down, shut up, leave me alone." And it stuck with me to this.
Wow.
oh yeah, that's bad.
Well, he was famous for making fans name all of the American presidents in order to get his autograph.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't have been able to do it back then.
But I mean, speaking of like MJF and all that, are there some gimmicks out there right now that you like, or some that you're like, this one's?
See, gimmicks are, for me, like, I'm not an overtly I don't overly pay attention to the gimmicks as much as the talent itself. I'm looking at whether talent can like talk and all that, because in this day and age, like the gimmick itself, like gimmicks itself is kind of like diminishing, and like I'm not against it, but even me myself, like I go out there like I'm a trucker, kind of trucker dude, but I am me, like, so I don't know. I look at more like talent, like whether they could go in the ring, whether they could talk on the mic, like not so much what gimmicks are out there, because I'm not paying attention enough to like WWE to know who's like what everybody's gimmicks are. I mean, especially how much they roll over talent. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah.
So Just to let you guys know, we got a lot of interaction going on because we have multiple chat rooms through YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and everything. So we've got a lot of people popping in and out here. Some interesting things here is that Justin says his grandfather actually used to go to the VFW to watch the Saturday night main events. So the fact that there was like a local venue for that, I think, is great. He also goes on to ask you, Rob, what would be your dream match? So I'm guessing if you could see one fight, and that would span the entire ages of wrestling, what would that be?
Between any two opponents?
Any two opponents.
Yeah, like dead or alive, like yeah.
Dead or alive.
Anybody.
So I'm weird. Like this is probably not going to be a popular answer, but there was a match that I wanted to see that almost happened. I'm a big Stone Cold Steve Austin guy, and we are seeing him coming back, or I don't know if he's going to wrestle or whatever. He's imminent return at WrestleMania 38, but there was rumors back in like 2006, they calling each other out between him and Hulk Hogan. And I would like to see them two in their prime. Not even like, I didn't even need their prime. Like Hogan in that early 2000 era versus Austin. Like, I really wish that happened. And now it's like too late, but it's like, those are the two biggest names of all time.
So kind of like when Hogan and Rock went at it.
I
would
was
have liked that to see.
I was there for that.
Oh, you were
13th row. I was mad that The Rock got that match. It didn't make any sense to me. It made and now in retrospect, like it was probably a better pairing of The Rock and Hogan than it would have been Austin and Hogan. But to me, I was like, why aren't they going like no, the icon match, whoever the icon is, Austin's bigger than The Rock. Rock got booed out of WrestleMania the year before. Going against Austin. So
you know, I think the aftermath of that match, Rock was perfect for that.
Absolutely.
For like, how Hogan was able to turn, back to a face and all that. Austin would have been difficult to work that angle just by the nature of his character.
So yeah. So like I always thought, then the next year they'll probably have Austin, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
That would be the match.
So
I had a follow up to that, but like, who would be your dream person to work with, living or dead?
Opponent?
Dream person to work with, anybody.
Oh.
Even tag with.
Yep, or tag with.
That's okay. So opponent, I would probably have to say Bryan Danielson. Like I just feel like that would be beautiful. Like that would be like, and I could learn a lot, and like it could be hard hitting, and he's just like he's one of my favorites out there. Probably a dream tag team. I mean, it would probably be that's a hard answer. You know what? The answer is going to be a cop out on that. My tag team partner now, Dewey Murray, is my favorite tag team partner I ever had. And I've done some things with tag partners. I'm a former NWA North American Tag Team Champion, which was only one of two NWA nationally recognized tag titles. So, and Dewey Murray, my favorite.
There you go.
Perfect.
So we've seen this
with some heroes of mine growing up, like Nunzio Lil Guido. I've teamed with him.
FBI.
Like I've teamed with Just Incredible before. Like I don't know. I've been around the block, so like I just wrestled Hornswoggle this past weekend.
How'd that go? How'd that go?
My ass, that little guy. Beat the shit out of me. Peter Dinklage better watch the fuck out. He keeps getting him mad. Jesus.
One of my absolute favorite Monday Night Raw moments was when they did WeLC.
Oh
yeah.
That was actually on the TLC pay-per-view. Yeah.
Yes.
Extreme Rules pay-per-view, actually.
One of the funniest things ever.
Hornswoggle.
Oh my God.
El Torito.
But it was a badass match too.
It was.
It was a lot of fun.
Hornswoggle can go.
I love the
Hornswoggle
ladder.
can go.
I love the ladder that was a step ladder.
Yeah, the step ladder, and then all the bumps that Drew McIntyre took and stuff. Oh, that was a great match, man.
You
That's
have
probably
no idea
my favorite midget match.
Absolutely.
Ash, you have no idea what we're talking about, but these were two little people.
Well,
that were
now there's a direct horror connection because Hornswoggle was acting in the last Leprechaun film.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, not the last one, but the one before the last.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, there's some connection there.
Leprechaun Origins, which you can't tell. Like, it's a good thing you said that because I mean he's all prosthetic up, but you couldn't even tell it was him.
Yeah.
It was like, why are you even using him? But all right.
Right.
Well, because wrestlers are actors now.
Yeah. Well, and
They've always been.
like it's easy for us. Like we perform improv with and everything we do is like one take. Like we are. And we do, like, we're treated, the stuff we go through, like when we get to work in Hollywood appreciates us and our work ethic because we're so not used to like having everything given to us. Like wrestlers, we'll do it ourselves. Like, and we'll live dirt poor and we'll do what we got to do to like get by. Like there's a lot of paying your dues in our industry that doesn't get done in Hollywood. And I've heard that like, yeah, most like studios love working with wrestlers because we're willing to do more than the average actor.
Right, but it's I meant it more along the lines of it's becoming a crossover thing now. I mean,
Absolutely.
You have The Miz, Randy Orton, Paige.
Look at John Cena,
The Rock. Austin did a couple 3 movies.
Yeah, he did about a dozen. Yeah.
So it's a crossover market now, and like you said, and for the most part they're believable in the roles because they're used to being in a role.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, part of me and what I do is dropping in before I need like a good 20 minutes before I go out before the curtain where I'm completely unapproachable in a locker room because I'm dropping in if you're not my opponent in my match, talk about things, like don't come up to me. Like I'm because believability, like one of my good friend of mine, and he was a mentor of mine, Brody Lee, he taught me that believability was in the eyes. And Brody passed away about a year ago. So.
Yeah.
But
Brian used to work with him.
Yeah, I used to work with him. He actually used to. I'm a teacher, and he worked in my building.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. John was just a great dude.
As he was as a wrestler, he was 10 times better a human being.
Yep, amazing dude.
That's hard to say. Wow. I mean, how many people in do you know like that? But he taught me believability was in the eyes. He said, I cut a promo one day, and I did it very like Jake the Snake Roberts, where I did it like lower registry, right? Or like a Bray Wyatt, where I did like, it wasn't your typical yell at you kind of promo. I'm coming at you. This guy, it was more like, I want you to think about the words I'm saying. And I just delivered it kind of like I'm just looking at you guys now. But I ended that promo, and he just goes from across the locker room, Rob. And I go, yeah. He goes, crazy eyes. And he just goes, crazy eyes. That's all he says to me. And I got it. And I understood it. I understood it from now on. It was like, I can have that lower registry. You're going to look in my eyes and you're going to see believability. And like, that's something I bring to the table every time I'm out there. It's believability. Like, I fool some of my fellow wrestlers into thinking I'm about to tear somebody's head off. It's a lot. It's a lot because we're actors, but we're also athletes. And the physical pain we go through and the physical impact is more than any other sport. Like, it really is. A lot of MMA people come over to us now. That's the other thing too. That's really cool is that like where those two worlds were kind of divided for a while. MMA, you see all the top MMA people of the last 20 years come over and do us. And it's different. It's a different kind of physical than, actual fight. Like the actual fight it takes its damage and all that, but night after night, like 4 to 5 times a week of doing bumps and bumps and bumps, and a bump in the ring is the equivalent of a 35-mile-an-hour car accident. I've had car accidents since I've started wrestling where I get no whiplash, nothing but just a tiny adrenaline spike. And that's from, I mean, I could take 10 of those, 15 of those in a match, in one match. So what our bodies go through is definitely, it's a lot different than any other athlete. And we don't have an off season.
Right.
It's year in, year out. I'm on every weekend.
How often, like how many times a year do you wrestle?
Like I said, like I try to, I'm one of the guys that are like on the road like almost every weekend. It's rare to get a break. Sometimes it's multiple times in a weekend. So it's,
it's a grind. It's a grind.
Yeah, it is a grind. I mean, sometimes it's multiple shows in a day. Like I've gotten up. So I live in Rochester, New York. I remember one show, me and my girl came with me for this, and we leave our house at 7 a.m, go to do a show in Pennsylvania to get there by the show started, I think like 1 p.m, something like that. So we had to get to Pennsylvania. That show finished up, had to drive from that show to Delaware for a show in Delaware. That show was at 6 p.m. So I got there into that show started, and then drove all the way back to Delaware to Rochester. Got into bed by 7 a.m. 24 hours later. Like, and that's constant. Like that's like this past week I was in North Carolina. That was 9.5-hour drive.
I mean, you have to love what you do in order to
love it. Like
that.
It's tiring. It's, there's times before where I wanted a break, but I know that this is like I've gone through some of the worst stuff in my life in the last couple of years. I lost my mom like a year ago. This got through it, and like really like is my escape. So like I love being on the road. I love it. It's pirate lifestyle. Like it's rock and roll lifestyle. It's, and when I go, like every once in a while when I get that break, I take it like a weekend off. Sometimes I'll take it, but then I'll feel so guilty. I want to be right back on that road. You start seeing stuff like other shows that went on that you weren't booked on, and you're like, man, that could have been me.
We were talking about this transition that a lot of the entertainers have had from being professional wrestlers going into acting, and not only that, but headlining franchises. So that's something I think that we're seeing more differently than the 80s, because 80s it seems like they were just trying to work them into convenient spots. We've got a vehicle for them, let's put them in this. And it was sort of more sporadic. But now when you've got the Rock is the biggest paid action star on the planet. So you've got not just people who are transitioning from that into the very, very big Hollywood stuff, but these are more headlining, sort of roles for them. Do you think there's more expectations then for younger people getting into wrestling because they're seeing that as the end goal?
I think when you're young and you're getting into wrestling, like it's got to be wrestling. Like your first few years, especially, like it's kind of got to be all wrestling till you get it. And like it takes years until you get it. Like most guys don't get it till they're in the double digits. And like to be able to do both. So what you see is like maybe some people have those aspirations and they didn't get the success in wrestling right away, and they leave and they go to, do whatever they wanted to do, pursue that dream. I don't see a lot of young people coming in going, yeah, I want to do this because I want to become a movie star. You have to love wrestling because it takes such a toll, and you have to sacrifice so much of your time. Like if you didn't love it, you wouldn't do it. You just wouldn't do it. So it's people who really love wrestling. Like the popularity of it is not like, I know back in the Attitude Era, everybody was watching on cable, but I just feel like there's almost as many people now. It's just not measurable because people aren't watching cable anymore. You know, they're consuming things in other ways. They're going to the indie show rather than watching the mainstream program. And it's the indie scene has really exploded in the last, 5 years, 6 years. And it's this like general acceptance of the whole industry where before you would just be like, if you were in WWE, people didn't take it seriously. That maybe about 10 years ago. Now it's a completely different story. It's just so healthy right now. It's so amazingly healthy. And I think, it's you're just finding like young people who are just throwing themselves in there. You got the WWE Network on Peacock that you could go back, look at the past. We didn't mention I work at a toy store. From working at a toy store, I'm finding all these kids who know these like wrestlers who were around from when I was a kid, that like some that have passed on and stuff. And it's like they're learning it because their dad is teaching them, like, hey, this is Dusty Rhodes, this is Sergeant Slaughter, you know?
I remember, trading tapes. Excuse me, I was a huge tape trader. I mean, like, you would get a tape of, one of the Japanese, and you'd be like, oh my God, I got 3 matches from Japan, and you're watching it on a videotape that had been copied like 70 times. So you like, I think that's a guy, like you didn't even know, who it was.
Yeah.
It was
The
like
tape says Giant Baba, but that could be any guy in red trunks.
it was like trying to watch Cinemax when you were a kid that night, looking for the one nipple shot with the
You know how many wrestling pay-per-views I watched like that?
Oh, it was amazing back then. I did too.
My first viewing of Mankind, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell was on the scrambled things, so I kind of fall off.
If you had that
heard the crowd.
VHS VCR that had the scroll wheels for tracking at the top,
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
you were top tier because you could get really close.
Yes.
I could get to the point where I could at least see black and white boobies.
Ooh, that's all you needed.
No
You didn't need
squiggly
color.
lines, but it was in black and white. You could never get color and no squiggly lines. You had to sacrifice the color.
Oh,
These
yeah.
kids today don't know the struggle, man.
So I had about 8 tapes of black and white young lady Chatterley movies.
Oh my gosh, right? Jesus.
They looked real film noirish though. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, the suspense.
Made the acting that much better.
It did. I was like, am I watching The Thin Man? This is so noirish. I love these connections that we all sort of have because this is a generation where not only were we into wrestling, but then horror and rock and roll and stuff. It seems that it's just a meeting ground. All of these things sort of come together. You have all these threads that are out there, but at the core, these fans, really do love all these different genres. And it's pretty amazing to me. I mean, I remember being a kid and, obviously it's one of those moments for, I think maybe as an adult, they might have, sort of lost their tracking on it. But as a kid, I was like, somebody's going to fight RoboCop. And if I don't see it, I'm going to fucking kill myself.
Yeah.
Like that was... It was like one of those moments because it's a what if moment. That's sort of what I love is that all these what if moments sort of get explored. But that was it. And now, I mean, to go back to movies for a second, it's like, with like the MCU and stuff, it's like those were what if moments as a kid. Like when I was sitting there as a kid, the big thing is that we would just load up on caffeine and we'd spend like 6 hours talking about who was going to play Wolverine if they ever made a movie, but it's never going to fucking happen.
Right.
And then it's like,
and then you grab the Wizard magazine that like already did their fantasy cast. You go, oh, I love their idea of Patrick Stewart being Professor X.
Right. Yeah. It's like, but nobody ever gave Glenn Danzig a shot. God damn it, Glenn.
Bill Cosby is War Machine.
Short and hairy. It should have worked out.
Bob Hoskins as Wolverine almost happened,
Right.
folks.
It was between Glenn Danzig, Bill Hoskins, and Danny DeVito. And I'm like, come on, Glenn.
Hey, don't forget Cosby is War Machine. That, I mean,
and
we
that's a
had
knockout right there.
Better stop flying around. Or I'm gonna shoot
when's
this
that
gun
grow
over.
rockets?
Tony, Tony, what are you doing?
I mean, could you picture the sweater? Just the sweater would have been amazing.
Over the armor.
Tony
What?
Stark.
Yeah.
I'll trade this goddamn whole thing in for some pudding pops. That's exactly how it would have went, and I would have watched every single damn second of it.
So yeah, that actually goes back to your point. Is like, I think like when we're talking about films, so like I like shitty comic book movies. Why? Because I never thought we'd see like any comic book movies on screen.
You had to take what you got, right?
Right? So like
Toxic Avenger.
the fact that everybody gets nitpicky on them nowadays, I'm like, oh come on! Like you're lucky we have a freaking. I didn't know who the Guardians of the. I knew of them, but I didn't really read them until the movie.
Well, Rob, if you want to talk about tape trading, okay?
Yeah.
The fact that I had a tape about 10 times removed from the master of the original Fantastic Four that was
From
never
94.
released.
Yes.
And I would just invite people over, and I'm like, you have never seen a more glorious piece of shit than this movie.
Oh my god! It's on YouTube for free.
Right, but back in the day, it was like you had to go to like a con.
How'd you get it?
At a con. I
At a
bought
con?
the VHS. Yeah, I bought the VHS in one shot. I bought it was a Crow fan film
Oh my god!
that was like mired in lawsuits. And now it's everywhere. Now it's everywhere. But back then, like the guy couldn't get anybody, and he made it with like some friends, like in college, right? So I got got the Crow fan film. I got the Fantastic Four movie, and then I got Peter Jackson's Meet the Feebles,
Wow!
like in one shot. And I called everyone I knew, and even people I didn't like, to come over. I was like, you would not believe what I have in this bag. It was like being 11 and getting a stack of porno mags. I'm like, you would not believe the wonders, the terrible, terrible wonders that I have in this bag. And then we would watch Fantastic Four, but we'd fucking love it because what else did you have?
You didn't have anything else. Like, I remember like watching the old Spider-Man stuff from the late 70s when I was a kid, like way before James Cameron even had rights to it. You know?
Right?
No, the original
It's
Spider-Man TV show, the live-action TV show was. Oh, that costume was bad, but I watched every
you had to get
single
the
episode
bootleg
of it.
Japanese stuff, Sapena Man.
So good.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the late 70s Captain America, the 1990 Captain America.
We were happy with
Look.
Hasselhoff as Nick Fury. We
Oh
were
my God,
happy
if
back in those
Hasselhoff's
days.
in the
We took what we had.
multiverse of madness, if Hasselhoff's in the multiverse of madness, that will make the film.
So here's my prediction, Rob.
Yeah.
I think, by the way, I loved No Way Home. I thought it was
Probably
just
my third favorite MCU film.
just fantastic.
Love it.
But I think that was dipping the toes in the water. I really do.
Right.
I think this whole, like, we're going to give them some holy shit moments. And then Multiverse of Madness is going to come out. And we're all just going to simultaneously nut over what they're doing in this movie.
Completely. At the same times.
It's
Over and over again.
It's going to be, they're going to end up renaming that day World O-Face Day. Because that's what's going to happen when we're all in the theater, and then all of a sudden they're going to bring out some shit. The fact that we know Patrick Stewart's in it already as fucking Professor X, the fact that we know that, I mean, I'm so goddamn excited talking about this, I don't know what to do with myself.
Halle Berry's hairstyle right now is silver and chopped up. So
It's, I swear to God, if
So
I
they're gonna-
see anyone pop fucking claws out in this movie, I'm going to lose my shit in the most glorious of ways.
So they're gonna
Daniel Radcliffe.
They're gonna put Kleenex in the armrests. Like they're gonna just install
I'm gonna
Kleenex
have to wear
boxes
a
in the
Kleenex
armrests.
suit.
Well, yes.
I'm going to have to look like the guy from Office Space.
Full body condom.
walking in to this theater. Because honestly, I think this is going to be the movie where I'm going to just lose my shit all over the place. I'm going to be fucking 8 years old again. I am. I'm going to be insane.
I've actually been like actively trying to watch everything that I never saw in the history of Marvel cinema leading up to this. Like I'm watching all the shows. Like,
I just started What If. That was the one straggler for me. Was What If. I had not watched the What If stuff and just started watching it last night.
You're gonna need you're gonna need it for that movie.
Yeah, I already lost one reference in fucking No Way Home because I hadn't watched it, bastards.
If Nicolas Cage shows up as Ghost Rider, I will walk out.
Walk out? I will celebrate.
That was my favorite. That was my favorite book growing up. Was Ghost Rider.
Well, look, and that's my Ghost Rider #1, right there on the wall.
He bastardized that so bad. And
this must be the horror guy in me, but Nick Cage is a gem. His movies in the last freaking 8 years have been glorious. From Mandy to Mom and Dad to
Mandy.
Color Out of Space.
Color Out of Space, I thought was brilliant. I absolutely loved Color. I'm a huge Lovecraft guy. To see Lovecraft done right like that, Color Out of Space was fantastic.
What did you think of Lovecraft Country? Did you see that?
I really liked about the first half.
Yeah.
And I knew that was like real heavy-handed on the messaging, so I was fine with that. But it was like I think that they went more for shock with the messaging. And like I like the messaging, but I like it to have some importance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It almost seemed like they were just kind of building up to get to that in this next season, but they cut them off.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, but the horror elements, God, I thought were great, and I thought the tone of it was great. I thought everything they accomplished with it was amazing, and I'm looking
forward to Tom Majors as King.
Oh yeah. I mean,
he already was great and.
I never thought we'd see this stuff. Like I never thought because again we were scrounging for anything that we could get, cinematically when it came to comic books, and then when it exploded, it was like we get all this, and not only do we get all this with a shit ton of money behind it and good writers behind it. I mean. The fact
and top actors.
I mean, the fact that Raimi's coming back for Doctor Strange is just like, it's fucking mind blowing to me that in my time I'm getting a Doctor Strange movie from the guy who created Evil Dead. To me, It's like if somebody as a kid, I think even at 7 years old, I had the capacity to tell somebody to fuck off if they told me this was going to happen. They would have been like, "Hey, young Ash," and I'd be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And like, you're probably going to see an Evil Dead, esque Doctor Strange movie in your lifetime. I'd be like, oh, fuck right off. Because we didn't think this was going to happen.
But it's all because people our age are in control now. They're the ones making this stuff,
We're buying the tickets and for the first time in a long time, these companies, which, they're all evil anyways, but still, they're actually sitting back and going, hey, we can be evil and still give these people what the fuck they want. Yeah. It's like they hit that genius epiphany. Like, we can still be bastards and make money and still make good movies.
Brian and I had a conversation once about how spoiled this generation of moviegoers is. Because, Brian and I saw Star Wars in 1977 and we had to wait 3 freaking years.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there was another one. And then you had to wait 3 freaking years for the next one.
Yeah, there were fist fights. There were fist fights in the playground over whether Vader was really Luke's father. Arguments. Wow. I saw literal fights over that.
I
was born in 1984.
Well, this is arguably the best 80 year though.
Well, were you gonna say something about Return of the Jedi?
I had a Return of the Jedi poster book 6 fucking months before that movie came out.
Wait, was
That
it
is my-
Return of the Jedi or Revenge of the Jedi? Because I had a
Oh,
Revenge of the Jedi poster.
They had just started marketing it as Return. So
Okay.
it was Return of the Jedi. And I'm sitting there. You know how long I had to wait for that fucking bikini?
Yeah, but when it appeared,
6 months.
glorious.
That book had so much water damage on it. It looked like it sank with the fucking Titanic. You're waiting for that gold bikini for 6 months. Guys, it's been an hour. It's the fastest hour
What?
on the internet. Please, before we go, Rob, where can people see where you're going to be at? Where you're going to be at next? How can they follow you on social media? What's some endpoints people can reach to find out what you're doing next?
Yeah, social media. Get me on Twitter at Rob Just Too Sweet. Rob Just Too Sweet. I have a fan page on Facebook. You can add me on my name, Rob Sweet, too, because I mean it's my real name. It's easier. A lot of people follow me there. Instagram, same thing, Rob Just Too Sweet. It's the number 2, by the way, not TOO, the number. I had to be all cool in 90s with it. And yeah, I've got a couple big shows coming up. UW Wrestling, Phelps, New York, April 23rd, going for the Ultimate Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. March 27th, Nickel City Wrestling, the Open Road Hellboys, me and Dewey Murray versus the Barrio Boys for the Nickel City Tag Team Championship. That's at Batavia Downs Casino in Batavia, New York. And you can follow me on all my social media for all the other ones. There's just constantly every weekend. This weekend I'll be in Quarrytown, Pennsylvania. It's always an adventure. I love it.
Well, we can't thank you enough, Rob. We had an absolutely fantastic time tonight. We're going to have you back. We had so many questions in our chat room that we didn't even get to tonight because we had so much to cover. We can't wait to get you back on the show. Do you have a few months off the air for us?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to thank everybody who popped in and out of the chat room tonight. We had a lot of really good questions for Rob. Definitely going to have him back on so that everybody can get their questions in this time around. So thanks everybody who comes into the chat room because it always makes the show more interactive, which we absolutely love. Next week, we're going to have the director of Mothman found footage film coming out. He's going to be on with us, and we're going to go ahead and get you some more information about that before Thursday rolls around. Thanks, everyone, so much for enjoying our St. Patrick's Day with us tonight. Have a fantastic time. We'll see everybody in